this is the game. This is the game of the weekend.
If you watch one game only this weekend, don't make it this one.
Italy hosting England.
That's right.
Stadio Olimpico in Rome, 3 o'clock kickoff on Sunday afternoon. That's 3 o'clock UK time. That's right. 4 o'clock local time. Damon Murphy, the referee from Oz, Andrew Brace and Pierre Brousset on the sidelines, and Brian McNeese in the TMO box. This one from an England point of view is falling at a nice time. It's definitely helpful for them to come off a defeat. You can get 5 points up. You're in the competition.
Is it like a 3-point away loss in week 1 of the Six Nations is not doom and gloom, and the chance to go out against Italy means that you go into the gap week at least with points on the board and you're still in it.
This week has been one of Telegraph riders coming up with sack Eddie Jones. And then, no, hang on, you settle down here and you come into the next. You get your win, and then all of a sudden it's a week off, everything settles down, and then all of a sudden you're coming into the game against Wales next week with 6 points on the board and a chance to put yourself in real contention going into the last 2 weeks.
You've skipped ahead to the prediction section already. What's going on? Maybe Italy
I'm
might
just
do
saying,
it.
from an England point of view, this is a good chance to go giddy up and get back on the horse. And from an Italian point of view, they're playing at home.
They are. First home crowd. I think it'll be a chance to look at how the Stadio Olimpico looks in this season. Just in terms of the history of this contest, the first match between them happened in the World Cup in 1991. They've in a total they've met in 28 matches, and all 28 have been won by England. The first meeting was on the 8th of October, obviously 1991 in the World Cup. England won that one 36-6, just for context. That was the first time they ever met.
30-point win, close to par.
A 30-point win, is that the spread? I don't know. Closest results between the two sides came in 2008 and 2012. Where England won both of those games by only a 4-point margin. So that's the benchmark for Italy. That's as close as they've got to beating England.
2008 and 2012 Italy were obviously a much better team. In both of those years, for the record, England blew Ireland away.
Yes, it's true.
Beat Ireland by more than Italy in both of those years.
They were combative in that kind of area. The most recent match, however, which we look at recent form, was a 41-18 victory for England in Twickenham last year. They haven't been as close as they had been in years gone by. And we know this, there have been better Italy sides than this. This is quite a young Italy side. It's going to be tough, and England obviously having to bounce back, having to lick wounds. They'll be, always looking forward to this Stadio Olimpico, this trip over to Rome where the conditions are a little bit favourable. The opposition is less, and England will be coming with a young 10 and all kinds of notions of running in pretty scores.
Yeah, no question. We don't have the squads for this one, unfortunately, but we will plough on nonetheless. So we start with Italy, who obviously they started well enough in France. They led for good periods of that first half. They were physical, they were defending with width and with speed off the line, which was good to see, making tackles, defending on the front foot, putting pressure on the French, especially in wet conditions, yielded some results for them. The other areas that were impressive, like in set piece, they didn't give anything. Lucchesi, the hooker, he looks a fine player.
He looked very good, didn't he? That's right.
And they can be physical and abrasive seemingly in that contact area. They're starting to take the shape a little more of an international Benetton.
Yes, that's true. Their back row very impressive always. Is their MO. They were
even number 8 Halafihi was excellent.
Very, very good. No, they're all very physical, and they have depth in that area, which is where it's quite unusual. They look tier 1 in back row, and I would say they would kind of demolish some of the tier 2 sides in that particular area. But there are other areas where they need to up their game. Varney in particular is a player I'm very excited about. I gave him a lot of props last year. I thought he played really well for them. Helped Garbisi a lot, but you're right in saying their offense was a little stuttery in the deluge in Paris.
was terrible last week.
And part of it was the confidence shot by your halfback just as you take the lead in France, and France are not playing well, throwing 7 points away in your own thing. You can't afford that. England will gobble that up all day long if you're as loose as all that. So up to performance.
It looked disorganised. Obviously Franco Smith has gone up to a director of rugby job, and he was looking after the offence primarily. I mean, he's been moved on because they didn't like the defence. So in comes Kieran Crowley, who's been having this Benetton team playing this other way, and all of a sudden all of the good nuggets that were there on the offensive end seemed on the evidence of week 1 to drift away.
No, they did grab. They were in Paris. They were in the rain, which contributes. They did grab a nice try.
It was a chaos try.
Yes, still nicely taken.
Oh yeah, listen, I'm not against it, but I chalk it off like it was a dropped ball by Chaminade and good pick up and go by Rutsa, and then that left France fractured because it was a line break. And Garbisi, we know, has the quality to make line breaks count.
He's an offensive player. You look for the cross kick, which was there and it was well finished. But they need more of that. They need so much more of that.
Well, they need rhythm on their multi-phase.
Well, they need an idea to get guys like Monty Ioane in space on the ball, and we didn't see enough of that. Obviously, it was raining. Prognosis is a little bit better for the weather on Sunday in Rome, hopefully. So you get a chance to run the ball a little bit more. But I
just didn't like the pullback passes that led to nowhere. Like that was it. They had like a couple of sequences where they did a pullback pass, first of all off a pod that were no threat to the line, to somebody who then did another, or Garbisi or whoever it was, who did another pullback pass to a guy who was just running behind everybody and then stopped and went, and like it was really sloppy. Like they didn't look like they knew what they were doing for large periods in the multi-phase, and then Edwards' defence was coming at them and they just got absolutely nothing going. I mean, yes, they scored a try off the kick, off the box kick, which is great, but on the multi-phase and off the set piece attacks and basically every attack they tried to launch didn't work at all.
No.
So I think they have to, like, that was definitely a point of concern. And England were playing a bit of a blitz, so they need to be a bit more patient. They need to play off 9, but the first thing that has to happen is that pod of forwards, you talk about the back rowers, be a threat. Sprint at the line, sit the English down a little bit, and then you can get a rhythm going where you're playing off Garbisi a little bit. They were a little impatient last week trying to move the ball too much. Be aggressive off 9, punch some holes, win some inside contacts, especially against an England pack that didn't look too up to the task last week.
No, indeed, and it's like they're an England pack that are a little lighter than some of the other England packs they faced of years as well. Like obviously there's still a Toju factors that you have to worry about, but it's always been a thing with me that like they need to go proactively after it early. So guys in their back row off 9 as aggressively on the line as you can when you have early opportunities, because the next time you're here trying to run an offensive set, you might have conceded 14 or 21 points in the interim, and your back rows, your barnstorming back rows, may have had to make 10 tackles each on big Englishmen, and then they're less of a threat to the line. So early doors, be proactive off 9 and try and be a bit more direct on the offensive thing. Stop going wide willy-nilly, because it hasn't worked. They were trying a bit of that even under the Franco Smith one, where they were doing those pullbacks, and you could see how they were standing deep and trying to get to the edges, and they had back rowers out there, but their skill set was letting them down, and it was like they were getting gobbled up by tier 1 defences.
Put your strongest ball carriers on the inside, sit the English defence down, and then trust Garbisi and his outside men to find Monty Ioane and co when they're in a bit of space.
I would like notions of things, like I would like things that get Monty Ioane off his wing on the inside pop. I'd want him much more busy.
He wasn't involved
at all last week, and he's their strike runner, danger man. And to go to the macro point, they should just be attacking. Really, it was the worst 3-pointer in the universe again that they kicked. They kicked a 3 to ostensibly take the lead in Paris, but no, because that is just seen as a white flag from the French point of view, and it would be the exact same from the England point of view. As soon as they kick a 3, it's like, oh, you think you're in a game with us? Well, we'll just score 6 unrequited tries to your 3-pointer, and that's the game.
Indeed,
shoot for 20 points, not 10 points. And they managed 10 points every game last season.
Up the standard on that for sure. Shout out to Menoncello on the right wing as well, the 19-year-old kid with the toe top finish. He could be lethal as well.
This is it. They have good wingers outside, but that doesn't mean get lateral, get deep. Just get them off the bench. You've seen with tier 1 sides, you see the effectiveness of even Corabetti for the Wallabies. He kind of is the benchmark for it, but the Irish wingers are getting off their wing and getting involved. French wingers, Pinot is very often in the line getting involved. When you have a guy like Ioane and you have that young kid on the other wing, get them as involved as you can. Be direct. Try and run at this English side and try and score some tries.
Yeah, absolutely. And then earn the space to the one who is on his wing and get the ball there as quickly and easily as possible, as Garbisi is wont to do. That is the model for Italy, is hustle as hard as they can, try and get some stuff going on offense, keep it up on defence. Their defence was pretty good last week.
It was, try and match that.
Just control the game a little more so that you aren't defending quite as much.
Quite as often, and forcing some of your key men to have to commit to so many tackles and so many collisions on the negative side of the pill, and then before you know it, you can't score anymore. But that is a realistic thing. Like, you have to be realistic in your aspirations and know that in the last quarter you're going to be gassed and you're probably going to concede a few, so just go after it from the first whistle. Try and take the game, and it's their first home game of the championship. Try and be aggressive from minute 1, go after England, try and catch them on the hop and make the first quarter an Italian quarter as best they can.
And they had that a little bit in Paris last week at home. They should be looking for more of that. From England's point of view, obviously Eddie Jones under a bit of pressure. They have whittled their squad down briefly. Launchbury was back in the squad. That was exciting. Joe Launchbury, and then he was cut straight away.
I like Launchbury. I think he's been very, very good for very
he's
many
just
years.
a man who Eddie Jones doesn't care for. And then Barbieri as well has been so good for Wasps, was also in the squad. He's been cut as well. Yeah. So they have the squad whittled down to 27 of the 23 we know. There'll be no Rafi Quirk, so they're going to likely go with the same scrum half options they had last week. No Courtney Laws, obviously, and so the captaincy not falling to him just yet. Atkinson, Furbank, Hassel Collins won't be involved, Louis Lina won't be involved, and so they have the squad whittled down, and it's likely to be very similar to last week. I would expect them to persist with the little Marcus.
I think they should. I think they actually should keep it pretty much the same as last week as best they can. Now, granted, I didn't love their selection.
Do you know what I like? I like Marchand in the midfield. I know this is an irrelevant conversation because you guys are going to have the squad now. I like Marchand in the midfield. I think I didn't love him on the wing last week. I think he can really do a job at centre, and I think that Daly, in that jersey, is a problem.
Well, I definitely do find it Scooby dubious that you analyse England from an Eddie Jones point of view and think, okay, new start, fresh start, clean slate. Okay, no more Vunipolas. Get rid of them. They're terrible. Axe all of these guys. We're going to get Jamie George, all these Saris. But Elliot Daly, he's the one who has to remain, and I'm just dubious. I think, and especially centre partnership like that. It's just England's best teams have had more heft.
They've had Tuilagi. The difference between the winning record of England with and without Tuilagi over the last 10 years is shocking. I'm going to have to look up the stats on that, but it's crazy. Yeah, all of their big performances have had Tuilagi. And partly because when they don't have Tuilagi, they reef him out and just pick a bunch of out-halves and change the whole system entirely. And so, it's like when you look at Marcus Smith and his preferred option of having an Esterhazy.
The bailout Esterhazy option, which everyone's crying for, and a Dombrand inside him, all of these. I'd like to see some of these combinations at test level because it gives you a little bit more consistency.
Esterhazy himself can't play with some kind of...
Dombrand can. But I think they'll persist anyway with a similar enough looking backline and a similar enough looking team to last week, just to give more minutes to these guys because it is a young team. In defence of both Eddie Jones and the team, it's
they beat South Africa. They were not great last week. They were slow. They were sloppy.
All of that amounted to a 3-point loss in Edinburgh, which is not bad.
And they were just a little too ready to play wet weather rugby. I think that was it. They just thought it was going to be wet, and they just wanted to play wet weather rugby. They thought they were going to get a leg up and do that. But this week, clean slate, lovely bit of sunshine, real chance to go after.
Get some wind in your sails, score some nice tries, get the offense moving, and get a little bit of that telepathy built with test minutes for some of these young guys.
In recent years, they have kind of bungled this test more than anybody else. Even 41-18 last year, we were noting that was Italy's best result last year, and it's been kind of a consistent pattern. They've kicked off and they've gone into that Italy game where you felt like they could just keep running through the phases, but they've kicked instead. They've played really patient, and eventually they've broken through with kind of some ugly scores in the last quarter, but kept it tight and ugly for large periods, even when you felt they had such a strength advantage that they could kick
three phases and break a tackle and score.
I would love to see, especially off the back of last week and all of the controversy and everything else that people are giving out to about, they need to get rhythm in their offense. That's the thing that's missing. They need to get that going. They need to get themselves dialed into getting into shape.
Yes, they were very, very lackadaisical in Edinburgh in that regard. So
and obviously Smith needs to work as a communicator as well in getting those guys into shape.
True.
And so that needs to be the point of focus. Really from the off, they need to be attacking this Italian defence, which did hustle hard against France, but against a clinical, good offence.
So that it's a big test for them in terms of that. They should be doing something ruthless like what the All Blacks might do and pinning 80. Let's do that. Let's go and attack.
Whatever about scores, it's just about starting the game with a mindset.
Well, the urgent. That's exactly it. That's what those kinds of little short-term goals or little targets can do, is just dial them into an urgency, because they started a little lackadaisical here, and you're right to point out in this fixture, and we saw it with France as well. They spent the first quarter fumbling around, not really dialed in at all because it's only the Italy game. Not arriving to the pitch is such a danger with it. Even if you do end up winning, which they ultimately probably will, you don't want to start disjointed like that. You don't want to have question marks coming out of an Italy game. You just want to kind of roll in and score some nice tries and get some momentum.
It's a team that needs to develop, and we talked at the beginning, you get your 5 points, you come in, there's a bit of ice and dust settling over the Scotland result, and then you come into this Wales game with a chance to really launch yourself back into the competition.
True.
All of that that positive narrative will go away if they have a stuttery performance here against Italy.
Yeah.
And like they need just a little bit off their backs. And again, Jones needs a bit of the OTT media reactions off of his back as well.
It's always tough being an England coach. You're going to have sharpened knives.
It's just the Telegraph
and
ran the headline.
pitchforks.
What does Eddie Jones need to do to get sacked?
Yeah, indeed. That's the soup they swim in over there. It's just their sports coverage is ruthless.
Yeah, indeed. But they definitely need to go after this game, targeted, show everybody as well that they can be a rhythmic, good attacking team.
Because they definitely can.
Totally
because
can.
look at what Queens have done. Look at what Sarries have done over the last few years.
The quality, like Henry Slade, by the way, his form is awesome.
Yeah,
on both sides of the ball, he was shooting out of the line, leading that defensive line from 12 with great speed. His passing game is flawless. He's often slotting into first receiver to get Marcus
as well.
wider.
That left-footed kicking option that they do like to have in the midfield.
He's in great form, and I think Joe Marchant is a really quality footballer as well. I'd love to see him get Noel back in. He came on last week on 82 minutes. Yeah. Not exactly using the finishers there, Eddie.
No, not particularly.
But I'd love to see him more involved and just really work those matchups. But also, I'd love to see it done with shape. Shape. Let's get a good shape going, help Marcus out in that department, and then all of a sudden things will click.
Yeah, there's a chance for things to click nicely here because there's just guys like Marcus Smith, like Freddie Stewart, who had one of his weaker showings in the shirt so far. Chance for all of these guys to bounce back and just get a little bit more confidence going. I would like to see more minutes for whoever it is, probably Randall covering the bench scrummy as well, because obviously a bit like Ireland and their Sexton chat, like Ben Youngs has been there forever and he's been a great servant, but they do have other decent halfbacks.
Loads of scrum halves in England. It's like Eddie Jones has come to the conclusion that it can be only Ben Youngs can do it, and it's like they've got loads of class scrum halves. Rafi Quirk can do it no problem, as he did against South Africa. I'm sure Randall off the bench can do it. I know Danny Kerr can do it.
Yes.
So I mean they've loads of class options there. It is weird that it's just Ben Youngs. But they're going to have to, like, I'd look for Marcus Smith even was bringing some line speed with Slade to his side just to get after Garbisi, slow down the Italian offence, and once you take that away, then they're going to be kicking to you a lot, and then you're going to get a lot of balls.
There's a lot of diminishing returns. Like they won't face an Italy that's quite as geared up as the one that France faced in that first quarter.
Maybe with the home field advantage.
They'll make it maybe just about, but then Ireland in the next week will face a slightly there's a lot of diminishing returns with a team like this when momentum carries. We're talking about momentum for the top teams looking to win it, but also it just carries in if you're at the bottom of the rung, and it's tougher to get up for games one after the other when you're losing them. So England, speaking of momentum, will be just looking to get some good minutes into this young team, some bit more shape, bit more rhythm, run in some nice tries, and be able to go into the gap week with a bit of optimism.
Yeah, and with all that said, how do you see this one going?
I think England will get some good minutes into their young guys and run in some nice tries. I think England will win it comfortably. I have question marks as to whether Italy will even manage a score against them. I suspect they will. I think this Italy side might grab a score against them, but I think England will manage to, unlike France, will manage to break the 40-point mark, I reckon. I think they'll probably be between 40 and 50 points.
That's just the same game over and over again.
It is the same game over and over again.
I mean, is there a case to be made for anything else? I don't know if there is. I think probably something similar. I hope to be proven wrong, but so do I. I hope that the big question mark is whether England's offence stutters and Italy's defence gets after them, and then all of a sudden it's a low-scoring game for longer. But I think even in that scenario, you are seeing England pull away in the last 20, and maybe it's 30 points to 10.
Exactly. That's the only thing that does is make it 30 rather than 40, and that's what happened in Paris last week. And it's just like, we know that. You probably know it watching. I just hope for this fixture that the Italians know it and just go gung-ho. Let's kick the corner every time and try and score tries. We need 4 of them, 4 moments to go our way, and we get that one precious point. I don't think it's going to come this week, but I hope.
Who knows? You score 4 tries, you could win the game.
That's it.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think 5-0 England. But anyway, let us know what you think. If you think any difference, let us know in the comments down below.
Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please like and subscribe for more content, and leave a comment down below as well, because we really enjoy the chat and hearing your views. Thank you.